to another edition of Soccer Saturday, presented by the Dubliners Dubai, the best Irish bar none in the UAE. It's the magic of the Cup this weekend as teams up and down the country start to dream of glory. A time for communities to come together and create special stories, which is why today we have the return of a very special guest. Welcome to an ultra posh Hollywood Balls. Now, before I get complaints, the reference to posh is, of course, today's guest, a young man this show has followed for a good while. Now the GM of Peterborough United Women. Today's show is powered by Board 8 Football Club, the first football community DAO, built to support grassroots football in the UK. And some amazing news out of Board 8 Towers this week. More of that later. Gorgeous George Spurs joins us, Tottenham's finest. Super Kev is back on camera duties. So today's special guest is Bobby Copping, GM of Peterborough United Women and the CEO of the Bobby Copping Foundation. Before we start, Bobby, let's take it back because I said that you have been on this show before. Look at us all fresh-faced just over a year ago. It must have been cold where you were at that time. You were probably in the stadium, no doubt. Massive Hollywood Balls. Welcome back, Bobby. How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
We're very well, yeah. We're great. I've just saying to you off camera before, we struggled to get the script together for you today because basically you're doing so much. We need a 3.5-hour show to get through what you're currently working on, but we'll try. We'll do our best. George, how are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. Good morning to you all.
Good. Great to see young Bobby back in, isn't it? And I know he's got so much to tell us. But because, you know, as time evolves and we've got new viewers, listeners and what have you, I think it's pertinent, Bobby, if you could, and I know you've probably done this a million times, you should possibly just have like a little tape recording next to you that you can press. But, you know, your journey is, there's a real serious element to how and why you've thrown yourself into what you do, which is incredible. But just give us a very brief background, because you were a pro footballer setting out on your journey. Just give us a brief background of what you're doing today and why that came about.
Yeah, so I started my career at the age of 8 at Norwich City in the academy. Was, you know, doing really well there, was there for 8 years. Unfortunately got released at the age of 16. After Norwich, I went on loads of trials, got offered a few clubs, and signed for Bury FC up in Manchester, which was, again, a brilliant move for me. I made my first team debut at the age of 16. Unfortunately, as you'll all know, Bury folded, which was, you know, a real tough time for us. You know, after Bury, I went on trial at Brighton for a week. Really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, didn't get offered the professional contract that I wanted. And then I had 2 offers on the table. I had my medical booked. You're not going to like this, Pete. I had my medical booked at Sunderland. And I was on my way, and then got a call from my agent to say, look, Peterborough, I want to offer you a deal. So, you know, I signed my first professional contract at Peterborough, which was, you know, incredible. Made my professional debut about a month later. And then I was on the bench in League One under Darren Ferguson, you know, a number of times, which for me was, you know, a dream come true. Got on FIFA, which, you know, again, is another big dream. Everything going really well. Lockdown hit. And, you know, I went away and worked on myself, and I made sure that when I come back, I wasn't just going to be on the bench in League One. I was going to be playing. Got back the second week of mini pre-season, we called it. Went up for a header in training, headed the ball, landed, and lost 95% of my vision. Left side of my body went numb and sort of basically got rushed to hospital. At that point in time, they thought it was concussion. So, you know, I'm sitting there thinking, you know, good job. It's only concussion, you know, nothing too serious. I then spent the next 5 months getting back fit. I was on the bench again for the first team against Cambridge in the Cup. And then my next full 90 minutes back in the under-23s against Luton. Went up for a header in the warm-up, headed the ball, landed, lost 95% of my vision, left side of my body went numb, blue lighted to hospital. As you can imagine, at that point, I'm then sitting in the hospital, don't know where I am. The doctors, it was quite funny actually. Well, funny looking back, but not at the time. The doctor come in and said, "Look, the only way you're going to stop this happening is stop playing football." And I'm sitting there thinking, does he know I'm a professional footballer? No. So that was obviously, tough at the time. Went back to the club. They said, "Look, speak to a specialist. You're going to be all right." Spoke to a specialist. Said, "Look, there's a tablet you can take. Buzz in, tablet. I'm going to be all right." Took a tablet. Within 2 days, I was bedbound, couldn't move. I had to come off that tablet. And then when I saw the specialist again, and cut a long story short, they gave me 3 options. Option 1, take another tablet and risk getting kidney failure and having to retire potentially in 5 years anyway. Option 2, carry on playing and risk going blind and other memory problems. Option 3, retire. So as you can imagine, for me, that wasn't a choice. And unfortunately, in 2021, at the age of 19, I had to retire from professional football. So, really, really tough. And something that, I didn't think I'd ever have to go through. Luckily, I've got an unbelievable family in the football club. My partner, really supported me through it all. And luckily, I've turned a negative into a positive, I'd like to say. And 2 years later, nearly, I'm doing loads.
Which we're going to get into. So that's part one. That gives everyone the background, because they'll appreciate now this fascinating journey that's come about. We were part of, George, literally, as I look back at our show between 14 months ago, we had Bobby on, and let me tell you, when we get into what he's packed into that, it's quite phenomenal.
Yeah. No, it's he's an inspiring fellow, our Bobby, and God bless you, man.
Thank you.
Great stuff. Great Legler's in the house, hasn't been on for a while. He says Sunderland for the cup. Good luck, mate. You know where Wembley is. I've had a lot of Sunderland fans contact me this week saying, do I want to borrow their map? Because obviously they've been to Wembley a lot more than Newcastle. So I'll just say one thing to you, Graham. Mitro's on fire. Hopefully he will be later on as well. George, great to have you back with us. Listen, I've been thinking this week, and I've got to credit my dad, because he came up with it and he said, "Can you ask George something? Because this conundrum that Tottenham have at the moment, mate, where it's rumbling on, is that there's unhappiness. We all know there's something that we can't quite put our finger on." But he said, where did it all go wrong? When you look at Tottenham and you look at what, it's FA Cup weekend, so it's synonymous with Spurs, isn't it? The Glories, the Ricky Villas, the Gazas, and even up to Pochettino being there, everything was rosy. Finals, challenging for the league, and you look at it now, and it's like, where's this doom and gloom? And the main question is, what's the answer?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Look, football is an evolving game. It's very different to what it was 5 years ago, let alone 10 and 20 and 30 years ago. Clearly, finance plays an increased role in the game. And it's, if we were to call Spurs a big club, one of the biggest differentials of Spurs versus the other big clubs is the ownership of the other clubs. While they may be run not as efficiently as Daniel Levy runs Spurs, the ownership of all the other clubs, i.e. the equivalent of the ENICs, whoever owns those clubs, they put their money in their own pocket into the club. In 22 years of ownership under ENIC, and Daniel Levy gets a lot of stick, but maybe, we should allocate some of that stick to Joe Lewis, who's the bigger owner, right? And who is a reported net worth of billions, 5-6 billion pounds, whatever it is, right? They have never put, Joe Lewis nor Daniel Levy have put money into the club from their own pockets up until the infamous recent 150 million pound capital injection. which has not yet been fully deployed. And if you believe some people who are supposedly in the know, the famous ITKs, somebody's being pulled back by Joe Lewis. So, you know, there's clearly disharmony in the club. That's what's going on. You can tell from Conte to his comments about the club, you know, of course, it makes it worse that our rivals are really doing very well. But, you know, Arsenal, for example, seem to be a club that has rhythm at all levels, you know. And Arteta, in one of his recent interviews after the Spurs game, I thought was very clear. I mean, obviously he enjoyed it because there's a rivalry, but he said something along the line that, you know, at our club, everyone's in unison or on the same page or something to that effect, right? You know, clearly something's not right at Spurs. And, you know, we're all willing to have a go at Daniel Levy, and I think he deserves it because I think he's made many mistakes. And but it could be that some of that should be allocated to Joe Lewis, and it's no secret that, you know, if you believe what some things you read, that Joe Lewis wants to sell his piece, right? I think that impacts the atmosphere on the pitch between the players. Nowadays, the game is everybody has to be going in the same direction and in good rhythm, and I think that's what's lacking at Spurs.
Okay. Touch on that in a bit. Bobby, I saw your post on LinkedIn. Basically, and I was trying to look to see where to start with activity. We've had a mayor trying to box off what to come up with, and as I said, we need a 4-hour show. But what I am going to start with is, given the fact that it's Bobby Cobbin Foundation, just give us an update on the foundation and where you're at, because it's something you've put absolutely everything into.
Yeah, and we're going really well, to be honest. You know, when we started it, it was something to give back and, you know, help people that may go through something that, you know, I went through and my co-founder, Kaylee. To this date, we've now delivered hundreds of talks and workshops up and down the country, football clubs, primary schools, secondary schools, colleges, universities, you name it. We've been into so many now, you know, talking about my story, talking about mental health, you know, how to deal with that, talking about the importance of talking to people. We've also fully funded counselling for a number of people now, which again is, you know, incredible to say that the charity is, you know, basically changed someone's life, on a number of people's lives by funding life-changing counselling for them is, you know, fantastic, and exactly why, you know, we ask for the donations we do, exactly why I put the work in, and, you know, not just me, the incredible team I've got as well. So, you know, in terms of that, you know, it's fantastic. We've now just taken on ambassadors as well. You know, I've put together a real in-depth strategy around the charity. You know, it's no secret that I want to be the best in everything I do, and that, you know, that comes into the charity as well. We want to be the leading, you know, mental health charity in sport and education in the country within, you know, 5 years' time. So, well, that's why, you know, a big part of bringing on the ambassadors. We've got Matt Jarvis, obviously ex-England, West Ham, Dino Lamb, current rugby player at Harlequins, Charlie Morley's a big YouTuber, Sam Cox, ex-Tottenham player, Guyana international.
Good player, Sam.
Yeah, top man. You know, we've got a few more in the pipeline. We've got Jordan Gill as well. He's a professional boxer. So, you know, for me, it's now about how do we best use our ambassadors? How can they help us the most? And by just having them on board, we've already seen the exposure increase. And, you know, a big thing for me is, can we get an ambassador in each sport, and also, you know, in different sectors as well. And then for us, it's about how do we branch into them sports.
Yeah, but Bobby, I mean, God bless you, do God's work. I mean, there's 1,000 questions I want to ask, and I know time is short. And Pete, I hope you don't mind if I ask just a quick couple of. But Bobby, you know, we see that it's not just football in all sports, right? There are many young kids, boys and girls, who say, all I want to do is be a footballer. All I want to do is be a boxer. And many of them, most of them fail. It's a given, right? You can't, they can't all succeed. And yet they give it everything they've got. And usually, not always, but usually everything else suffers, like studying, going to university or other things, right? And losing out and not becoming a professional footballer or professional boxer or a rugby player can be it can destroy them, right? It's a very difficult experience. How do you help young boys and girls, young adults in those scenarios?
So for me, I think the big thing for this is my work with the LFE, the League Football Education. So I'm a personal development mentor where, I'll go into clubs and we try and help them develop off the pitch as well. So, we put a big focus on developing off the pitch and having not a backup plan, but having as well as, alongside, we call it, where, we encourage players to do other things, whether that be coaching, whether that be, a degree, education, whatever it is, we say to them, look, not only is this going to help you if all does fail, which, hopefully it doesn't, but also the transferable skills you're going to get from doing a degree or going and doing a hobby or, something like that, for the football pitch is massive and going to help you in terms of that as well. So for me, it's that work that I do. And with the charity at the moment, something we're looking at as well is educating parents. I feel like at the moment, that's probably a big reason for the problems that we then see at 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, when players and athletes are falling out games because parents put everything into them, as they should, but they're not educated to the same level the kid should be. Is look, the likelihood you're going to make it is 0.0%. So as well as doing other things, you need to also understand that, which, every parent, let's be honest, every parent thinks their child's going to be the next Ronaldo, which is not going to happen. So for me, two things. One, the work I do with personal development, and two, educating parents from a younger age.
The parents, we all have experience of parents. I remember when I was a 19-year-old, I was playing for the first team at university, for my club team, and on Sunday afternoons I used to manage an under-11s team, right? And although it's a far cry from what you're doing, the parents were always the biggest issue, not the kids, right? But I can only imagine that the parents whose kids are quite good at football and they're 15, 16, 17, and they want them to succeed and they don't. It seems that's a big area of focus. How do you help the parents? Because they're probably just as devastated as the boy or the girl that doesn't make it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Even more, because, they've put everything. Nowadays, getting a kid to an academy is, an unbelievable commitment. You've got to get them there, 3 times a week training and then a game, especially in the current climate where things are tough. So for us, that was a big focus as well when we first set up the charity, was we want to educate, support and inspire, but, we want to offer support to players, families and staff within sport, which, is kind of a USP for us. No one else is really doing that. So, we've had parents come to us before saying, look, can I have some advice? My kid's really down at the moment. I don't know how to deal with it, for example. We've had that before and we've managed to give some advice, speak to them, put them in touch with a counsellor to help them. So, it's not just for players that come out of football, parents, families, we'll support them as well, which is massive.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Without knowing great detail, I'd be shocked if the parents didn't struggle with it just as well. The rejection of their girl or their boy not making it, right? So they probably need help as well for the whole family unit, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think, for me, when I had to retire, it hit my family like a truck. It was horrible. So I know firsthand how much that affects a family, and that's exactly why we've put a big emphasis on, look, we're not just helping the athlete, we're helping the people around it in the sport network.
Brilliant. Listen, staying with the community vibe, our Powered by partners have an amazing tournament launch taking place. The Under-9s Board 8 FC Masters takes place 17th and 18th of June 23 at Creasy Park, Dunstable. Teams so far in this classic have been joined by the Old Gold of Wolves there. Love that badge. It's a classical football brand, isn't it? They've been so Wolves, Southampton, Norwich, QPR, Swindon Town, Stevenage, and many more. A quite unreal youth initiative from our boys at Board 8 Football Club, basically to drive their dream of grassroots football. Any teams interested can get a hold of our Board 8 FC on their Twitter as well. Bobby, something that you know, chuck that into Peterborough United. I'm sure that there's academy and kids playing there, but a great community issue, and so many teams that are getting involved in it as well. There's a real thirst, isn't it, to drive the game from grassroots, but at a young age.
Absolutely, and I'll have a word. I'm surprised they're not on there, to be honest.
Well, they probably will be after this.
They do is fantastic, as is many other clubs. But yeah, like you say, it's massive to embed that right at the start.
It's great as well. George, speaking of names, where famous names, I mentioned the Old Gold of Wolves there. Let's have a little look at the FA Cup, because Accrington Stanley conjures up images of giant killing. And then, of course, Leeds United, a famous name of all those household 70s names as well. A cracking tie first up today, isn't it? Accrington Stanley Leeds.
Yeah. I mean, it's a beautiful game, right? I mean, and and it will not be easy for Leeds. The cup is a great leveler, and it's one of the romances of the game, right? The FA Cup 3rd and 4th and 5th rounds, where the Accrington Stanleys play the mighty Leeds. It's just fun to be alive to watch that, right? And experience it.
It's a standout game as well when you look at it. I mean, we all do. There's so many channels now. There's so many possibilities of watching your team. But when you look at the good old traditional today, you could go to the British Broadcasting Network. You can tune in at lunchtime and watch.
And listen, and I will tell you, look, the beauty of the FA Cup, before the Brighton-Liverpool game this weekend, there are 10 Premier League clubs out of the FA Cup already. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there'll be 11 after the Brighton and Liverpool game. You just never know. A small club, if there's an upset today with Accrington and Leeds, you just never know how far they can go, right? You just don't know. And it's so exciting. I can't wait.
Looking forward to it across the spectrum and other football. The Posh women are in action today. Bobby, your GM, Peterborough United women. Tell us about your role there. What does that entail? That looks like a big job that you're doing.
Yeah, so it's on the pitch, it's recruitment and managing the manager, appointing the manager, and sort of being that point of contact for all the staff. We've got a big staffing team now. Off the pitch, it's managing the business, developing the business. Sponsorship deals. Managing them deals as well. So it's a big job, and the growth we've seen from when I came in to now is massive. We got to the third round of the FA Cup this year, which it was a massive achievement. We've now implemented an academy, which was never there before. So we've gone from being in tier 5, not getting really anywhere in the FA Cup, not really having a real value to it, to now being a real professional outfit, having a full academy structure, reaching new milestones every year, and now competing at the top of the FAWNL. So, we're doing really well.
Got to ask you. Go on. Got to ask him first, George.
Yeah.
The footballer in you. You do let them get on with it, do you? You're not popping in beforehand to give a quick team talk, are you?
No, I stay away from that. I have many people ask me that, but my response is, if I haven't appointed the right manager, if I'm having to do that,
Sure.
So, that's their job, and my job is to manage the manager. So,
Just checking. George, go on.
I steer out the way of that. Don't worry, I'm still in the stand sometimes. Like, go on. But no, yeah, I'm very lucky. The staff and the manager are top draw. So,
Brilliant.
But I was just going to comment that it seems that you have a lot on your plate. You're a busy man. How do you manage your time? What does it look a day in the life of Bobby? What does it look like?
37 hours.
There needs to be more hours in the day, I'm telling you. I think time management is my best mate, to be honest. Not only have I think I've got 6 jobs now, a registered charity, second master's degree on the go, and a fiance to keep happy. So, and a wedding to plan. So, it's for me. I think it just comes down to hard work, and that's always been ingrained in me from a player, and that will never change. And maybe sometimes that's a downfall. I used to see going and having a day off as a bad thing, but I'm at a place now where I work real hard, and I make sure that I schedule in mini retirement breaks, which are fantastic for me. I went away to Lanzarote in January for 3 days with the missus, and since I've come back from that, I have been unbelievably productive, and that just shows me everyone's different, but that shows me that their mini retirement breaks are massive for me. Come back from that, signed 5 ambassadors and a business partner for the charity, so it must have worked. But yeah, like I said, for me, I think it is hard work, and I'm not afraid to go and do an 18-hour day if I need to do one.
Brilliant.
So,
Brilliant stuff.
Yeah.
I've got one more of something that you mentioned, but I'll break it with another FA Cup soundbite for George. George, following on from that Accrington Stanley one, we got Walsall playing Leicester today, in another cracker, another potential banana skin. I saw earlier this week the Walsall owner complaining, saying this should have been TV. It was TV material. I suppose the problem he's got is you do have Accrington and Leeds, but he's got a point, because what he's saying is that you've got Manchester United, who are on as the live game in another time slot, who are at home to Reading. No disrespect to the Royals, but it's another televised game at Old Trafford, when you could have been down the Besky at Walsall.
Yeah, listen, being away to Walsall is much more romantic of a cup tie, isn't it? Than
I'd rather see that than Old Trafford.
Yeah, and I'm not, no disrespect to Reading, of course, and again, no disrespect to Leicester. I would love for Walsall to win, or any small club versus any Premier League club. I think it's just great for the game, and you could get an upset. You just don't know. It wouldn't surprise me. Who do you think has got more chance of getting an upset, Accrington or Walsall?
I'd go with Accrington today. I fancy them, actually, and I know, speaking to a lot of people in and around Leeds, they're nervous. They're given their current form, given the uncertainty with the manager. They've had a terrible run of late.
Yes.
I think Leicester have turned somewhat of a corner. I would say out of those 2 games, probably for me, I'd have my eye on the Accrington one. Interesting. Again, beauty of the cup. Looking forward to it. Bobby, in your last segment there, you mentioned something about the EFL, personal development mentor. How do you work? What do the EFL get from Bobby Copping?
So effectively, I'll go into clubs this season. I've only got 3 clubs, so I've got Colchester, Ipswich, and Mansfield. So I'll go in and I'll deliver 6 sessions each. They're about an hour and a half, 2 hours each session, and they'll all have different topics. They'll be around resilience, confidence, personal development. What else is in there? Can't remember off the top of my head, but loads of different topics where I'll go and spend a couple hours with the boys. And for me, it's about building a relationship with them, and it's about them understanding, look, I've been where they want to get to, so it's in their best interest because what young lads are like, they don't want to sit in a classroom, but I try and make it try and make it enjoyable, try and make it fun.
Well,
Build
they
real.
can relate to you, can't they? Say, you know,
Yeah,
they
exactly.
wouldn't want dinosaurs like me and George going in telling them how to suck eggs. But if Bobby Coppin's in there, they've got more chance of listening, right?
Absolutely. Wow.
I
I
speak
don't
to
know.
myself there, George, obviously.
If you guys were in there, it'd be top draw. So we'll have to see. But yeah, so for me, it's just about trying to give them little nuggets of information where they can go and take it away and go and work on it.
Brilliant.
Bobby, wave your magic wand. In 5 years, where do you want to be?
The youngest CEO in football.
Brilliant. And answered like that.
CEO.
That's on my action plan.
What do you mean? A CEO of a club?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I'm just taken on a role as a non-executive director, board member at Unity Education Trust, which is a multi-million-pound trust which is made up of 15 schools across the whole of Norfolk, which was a kind of a strategical move from me to get board experience, proper board experience, and have experience as a non-executive director, you know, as well as my stuff as a GM, as well as my other masters, you know, all building up over the next 5 years to then, you know, hopefully take a big leap.
Yeah. Okay.
You made a note of that, George, have you?
Yeah.
Good man. Bobby, you can be director of Hollywood Balls. You can sit on the board at our quarterly meetings. We'd love to have you along.
We'll be following you, Bobby, as you know.
100%. Okay, George. Arguably, I know that Man City dispatched of Arsenal last night must have brought a slight grin to your face, but arguably for me, the tie of the weekend is in London, and it's Fulham against Sunderland. Fulham, a team going extremely well, by the way, and Sunderland flying in the champs. I know there'll be thousands of away fans going to that. So, as again, in context of the magic of the FA Cup, a great tie that.
Great tie. Big names, Fulham and Sunderland in the FA Cup. Lots of tradition and history. It's going to be a cracking game. I think it's going to be a tight game. I really do. You know, Fulham are at home, so they got the advantage there, and they're playing really well, Fulham. So I'd probably give them the edge, but
you never know. Sunderland fancy a draw. Sunderland fans fancy a draw today. Get them back to the SOL.
Oh, listen, if Sunderland get a draw, they got every chance of getting through because they go bring them home. Sunderland are on fire. There's confidence in the team. There's confidence in the way they're playing at Sunderland, and the confidence is one of the most important ingredients in football, right? You know,
they've just taken the young lad from Leeds on loan, Joffrey. Joe Geldart. He is the best player that I played against at youth level. He was at Wigan, and I remember when I was at Bury playing against them, and he scored 5 against me and tore me a new one. Like he was unbelievable. So you know, he's obviously played in the Prem now, and now he's at Sunderland.
You look at them, Bobby, and players like that, because he was doing. I've seen him playing well in the Premier League for Leeds. He's coming on as an impact sub. But if you look at Sunderland and the model, Diallo, or the long players from Man United, Everton, Leeds, and that's somewhat. I looked and talked to Sunderland fans that I know, and I think they were just happy to stay up this season. There's a real chance that these youngsters and players that you just mentioned, they could propel them into the playoffs. Yeah,
massive. You know, for them young lads to be getting the experience at a club like that at their age is unbelievable. But for Sunderland to have, you know, that quality, and if you have that quality mixed in with, you know, experience, then, you know, they can 100% get in the playoffs.
Okay, we'll move swiftly on from Sunderland doing well. Listen, George. Well, it's time for a baller of the week. There's been a lot going on. What baller of the week won't be is Anthony Gordon in the eyes of Everton fans. I'm just hearing now he's literally about to have his medical at the Toon, so he's not going to be a blue baller of the week. Have you got one?
Yeah. Firstly, I hope Everton kind of recover and get some stuff together. You know, it's sad. Yeah, they're in a terrible state, and you know, it just shows you how important football is to people. You know, Evertonians are down in the dump, and it's not good for the city. Anyway, we'll turn it around. I'm going to give it to a player who I always thought was a little bit overrated, but he played a great game last night, and that's Ake from Man City, right?
Yeah.
I thought Arsenal were actually quite good against City yesterday, with a lot of new faces in the team. I think Arsenal are on fire this season. God bless them. But I give it to Ake. He was outstanding, not just for the goal. I always thought he was not quite good enough defending, in my opinion, for what it's worth, at the highest level.
Many people did, mate.
Yeah, but he was outstanding yesterday. So I'm giving it to him.
Good stuff. Bobby, have you got a baller of the week for us?
Yeah, I think it has to be Rashford for me. The guy is on fire. He scores every game at the moment, so I don't think there's anyone in as good a form as him at the moment. So yeah, it's got to be Rashford.
If Kev was here, he'd have one, so I'll take his slot. I'm going to give it to Nick Pope. 10,500 hours with a clean sheet. Someone sent me a picture, George, of a back garden with a load of sheets, and it had Nick Pope's garden written on the back.
Do you remember, Pete, we were discussing what a great buy Nick Pope was for 10 million?
Absolutely.
Yeah, brilliant.
Top player is very, very
absolutely good. And also they said, someone said to me, he's not great with his feet. And I was sort of, I think it was John Burridge might have said to me, we're not looking for a sweeper, we're looking for a goalkeeper. And boy, they've got a goalkeeper. So Nick Pope for me. Okay, on to predictions of the weekend. Guests go first. So give us a score, Bobby, for Accrington against Leeds.
I'm going to go for it. 1-0 Ake.
Good stuff. Good. The magic of the cup. Alive and well in Peterborough. George, what you got for us?
I'm going for a 1-1 draw.
Okay, back to Ellen Road. I've got 2-1 to Accrington. Okay, come on, Accrington. Okay, next up, Fulham Sunderland, Bobby.
Sunderland 2-0.
To win.
Yeah.
Okay. Good shout. They could have a cup run. George.
I know that upsets you, but
yeah. Big time.
I think they're going back up to Sunderland, and I think there's goals in this game. I think it's 2-2.
Okay, Desmond for George. I've gone Fulham 12. No, I've got Fulham to win 2-0. Okay, careful next one. George's beloved Spurs, Bobby. Preston Spurs.
4-0 Spurs.
4-0 to Spurs. You take that now, George, right?
Yeah, I'll take that all day long. 2-1 to Spurs.
2-1 to Spurs. Yeah, I've got 2-0 to Spurs as well.
I probably shouldn't have said that. Sorry, my old manager Ryan Lowe is at Preston, so I'll change that. 1-0 Preston.
PNE, 1-0 PNE. Great stuff. One tie that Liverpool fans won't be looking forward to is going back down to the south coast. Wow, Brighton Liverpool.
2-0 Liverpool.
2-0 to Liverpool. George, what do you see?
Is our boy going to play who wants to leave? Do we know?
Side out.
Yeah.
He can't. He surely can't, can he?
Nah,
he's asked, hasn't he? You wouldn't start him.
Yeah. I think this is a real tight game. I mean, Brighton on fire. Liverpool, you just don't know which Liverpool's going to turn up lately, do you? It's the cup, so I'll give it 2-1 to Liverpool.
Yeah, I'm going 2-1 to Liverpool purely because the balance, the yin and the yang of league and cup always evens itself out just when you think you're going to win in the league. Okay, last up, most important fixture of the weekend. Done a lot of research on this as well. Tough game, but hope all the games are tough. But you would think being at home and given the league positions, Peterborough United versus a Long Eaton United women. Bobby, come on.
4-0 Peterborough.
4-0. That's no pressure on the team or the GM then. George, what you got?
I've got 2-0 Peterborough.
I've got 3-1 to Peterborough. So any of those you'd
Nice,
take, right? Obviously, the one with the clean sheet he'd want with his football head on. Brilliant. Listen, that's it for another episode of Soccer Saturday with the Dubliners on Hollywood Balls. Bobby, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you back on.
Thank you very, very much. Appreciate it.
Take care, Bob.
George, great to see you, George. You'll be lined up for a weekend of soccer sofa, no doubt.
No doubt. No
doubt. No running around this weekend. You'll just be back football chat.
I did it a whole bunch this morning, and I've deferred some of it to Monday. So
good stuff. Okay, listen, whoever your team is this weekend, have a great one. We'll be back next Saturday with the Dubliners, live from the Dubliners in Dubai on Soccer Saturday. That's it for us. So have a great weekend and take care. See you next time.
bye, guys.